Ohio high school football. It's a juggernaut each and every week. I'm going to take you on an inside look at the high school coaching world. In the world of high school coaching, there is far more than what people see after 7 p.m. on a Friday night. This is the coach's approach.
Welcome to the Coach's Approach, a podcast where we sit down with high school coaches and get the cold, hard facts about the high school coaching world. This is the Coach's Approach, where we talk X's and O's. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is the Coach's Approach, where we talk the X's and O's. Win the day or dominate the day. The choice is yours.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Coach's Approach podcast. I'm your host, George Gresko. Today, we have a special guest in the coach's booth, a good friend of mine, Coach Shaun Dente. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. We're going to have a good one for you today as we recap all the episode. Today, Coach Dent and myself are going to do a recaps through episodes 1 through 9 and talk about our favorite moments from each show. Before we get started, I need to shout out my sponsors, Coach's Dry Rub, the All-American Rub, laid on thick until it sticks, Anthony's Family Restaurant in Eastlake on the corner of 91 and Vine Street, where together is our favorite place to be, open for dine-in, carry-out, and curbside pickup. The Well Bar and Grill in Kirtland, come in for some great food and a great time. Last but not least, G&G Printing. Get your custom apparel printed in 7 to 10 days or less. Dominate your design. Coach, once again, welcome. We're going to start our recap of episode 1, Ballin' with Butchko, where I sat down with Coach John Butchko for episode 1. One of my favorite parts from episode 1 with Butchko was when he kind of talked about coaching through the pandemic and kind of adapting to everything that way. Coach was in his third year as a head coach during the pandemic and during a rebuild, so it was kind of tough for him. And I thought that's hard. When coronavirus hit, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. It was a tough kind of go.
Yeah, I was at Barberton at that time, and just thinking of the little things that we had to do, and and how everything was really day to day. I mean, I guess everything in life at that point was day to day. We didn't know what was happening. We didn't know how serious it was going to be. Masks, being on the bus, not having no locker room access it's still to this day, and it's a huge issue. And to imagine what he had to go through trying to, you're trying to gain the players' trust and earn their respect and do all this stuff, and then limiting your time spending with them. And that's how you gain that family culture, and to do that without, being even able to, chest bump or do something or get excited.
Can't even high five.
Yeah, no high fives. How can you do that? So for him to be able to, approach something like that and, do what he did and through that pandemic is, just amazing.
And it's funny, like for me as a head coach, I was in year 2 as a head coach.
Right,
like that's my big rebuild year. And because going into year 3 is when you see the big success, year 3 and 4. So I was in year 2, and it was crazy. Like, I can't explain to you. I wasn't even worried about the football side of things, which is crazy.
Right.
I was worried about things that I shouldn't be being worried about. Are the kids dressed properly? Are they wearing their mask on the bus? Are they doing this? Are they doing this? Because I knew I had people staring down my neck to make sure I was following proper
protocols.
And
it's just saying kids don't want to wear masks. They don't want to wear masks. They want to take it off. They want to wear it around their chin. And we're like, please, just for a 20-minute bus ride, can you please sit still, do it? And and that's just amazing that you guys can overcome those type of things to get what you need to get done. And it was a challenge, like I said, for just what I saw, and I wasn't rebuilding a program.
Right. Absolutely. And Coach, I'm going to ask you, what was your takeaway from episode 1 with Butchko?
When I look at, first of all, to take a half step back and say, congratulations on such a great season. Exciting to be a part of. It's exciting to be a part of such a cast and crew of who you had. You got national guys, you got local guys that I've heard of, guys that I haven't heard of, that I've learned so much. I think as coaches, we all learn from other people, and to be able to have access. So, kudos to you for doing that. Something that I did, and I kind of reviewed, and we'll start with Butchko, is, each one And I guess, maybe it's from going to a million laser clinics or whatever. You're trying to pick up and notes and whatever. And how can I learn, it's like a book. If you can grab one thing out of a book,
Right.
I'm trying to steal something from his, or what can I steal from this guy? So, for each one, I kind of have a word association that came with that. And Butchko, was relationships. He talked about, as simple as he shared a story of he's now coaching with a guy that he once babysat. And to think of, I just ran into a youth coach of mine at Applebee's on Saturday. And I look at him and I said, "Hey, coach, how's it going?" And his eyes light up. He's going to turn 70 this year. I'm 43. He's still my coach. That's
Right,
not Coach
yeah.
Burrow. That's Coach Burrows. That's not Ray Burrows or Mr. Burrows. That's, "Hey, coach." And, it doesn't matter how old I get, he's always going to be that. And, to see that and to think that I might have players that I coached or whatever be on a staff eventually. And those are those type of kids that you look for, that you get, close to, or those guys that you either see something in yourself or see, growth and that's what I thought was really cool, is that he's got that to share with them and help him grow and, turn it into a mentorship. So relationships are really what stood out in that program.
I think anytime in the coaching world is about building relationships, whether it's your old head coaches, your old coaches, your players that played for you. I think relationships is a big part of the game.
Definitely.
Another thing I wanted to talk about from Butchko's episode was his domestic violence case that was ultimately dropped. This case has affected his life. I talk to him about once a week now, but it's affected his life big time, going for coaching jobs. And because they Google his name, what comes up, the article of a case that was dropped. And I think the quote he used was, "When there's smoke, there's fire." Well, in his case, John is such a great guy, and a lot of people read an article and they're like, it kind of back their hands off and look the opposite way. But it's such a shame that he's not getting interviews for jobs because of an article that was written of something that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's unfortunate.
It's the way of the new world, the story comes out on page 1 and the retractions on, page 75. And that's unfortunate. We've gotten so, reliant. We've gotten rid of newspapers on there, and we Google names and we do a quick background search.
Sure.
And you're right, you don't get to this, and we're not reading this story. And now half the stories we read are stuff's coming from Twitter. We're getting it in 120 characters or less, and we're taking it. I have 2 young kids. I have a boy at 14 and a daughter at 12, and they regurgitate these facts to me constantly. And I say to my kids, I'm like, I hate to tell you, but that's not true. That's just something you read and it makes sense to you. So it's going to be an interesting generation of how that they get their information and how they do these things, because that's so unfortunate for him, because being such a great guy, and they don't look into it. And I think when you're dealing with schools and in general, they just don't want anything. They want everything perfect. But if anything, there's so many things that he can teach others about his situation. Like I'd want somebody to learn from and stuff. Obviously we do background checks and things for a reason, but a Google search is not a background check.
Right. And I'm going to say this right now. John deserves to be a head coach again, because he's a good
100%.
person. He's a great guy, and I truly hope that things work out in his favor. And I know he's still interviewing and going through processes, but he does deserve to be a head coach again. I will say that. Getting into episode 2, kicking it with Kahari, where I sat down with Coach Kahari Hicks from Cleveland Heights. Coach, what was your takeaway? I know you've done words for each guy. What was your takeaway from the Kahari Hicks interview? Just
an innovator. He got me really excited, because it's a guy that I didn't know. I knew you were at Heights, and you just talked up, over on the phone, "Hey, this guy," and I know you'd have obviously a pass with him, but to listen to his story about even how they're innovative on offense. When you think of the offenses, the types of schools he's at runs, it's not heaving it around. And it was so, and he said, "Hey, we were kind of all in. We're like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go on." And you still don't even see it, each year we see a little bit more, but, it seemed like they were, and then all of a sudden it paid off for him. So, not only is he an innovator of that, but, to see that he's creating programs that start off, and, we're so lucky in Ohio that everything's happens in our backyard. We've got these great people, we've got these great things,
Right.
but now it's taken it national and it's going forward. And, congrats to him. I hope that a million of these little programs spawn off of his, but, good for him to be there. I know he was, talking about, having his opportunities come up, and, that's going to be a great organization that takes somebody like that, because he's not just thinking internally. He's been around the game a long time. He doesn't need thanked or anything.
Right.
He's taking it national. And I mean, what an opportunity to, get somebody like that.
Right. And talk about what you said, innovator. At that time, he was coaching at Richmond Heights, and they were a small school. And as the offensive coordinator, to be running a spread offense with 4 and 5 guys, it's unheard of at a smaller school. And at that time, they weren't doing that. Small schools were running the football, doing that type of thing. And then when you talk about like the Build the Bridge and things that he's been a part of, he's done so many incredible things throughout his coaching career. And that's what kind of brings me into my favorite part, and kind of more of a concerning part for me, was Hicks's interview. He talks about his interviews and coaching process, and that he hasn't gotten a job because of his Muslim faith. And that is crazy to me that we're in 2022 now, and we're still struggling with this racist racial backgrounds where people aren't getting jobs and stuff because of it.
It's unbelievable. And you see the NFL going through it now. And, as 2 white males sitting here, we probably have a lot more opportunities than other people. And it's sad, because he's way more qualified than I am to get in anything else and everything. And when you think about, the athletes in college, and, they're of African American, and that's dominate pretty much the sport. So it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense on paper. And once again, as a father first and a coach second, these are the things that I'm trying to implement with my kids early is, and you're just got to be playing with everybody. It just doesn't matter. It's just going through, and that'll make hopefully it makes a huge imprint in their lives, and they don't see this, because it is getting, I just keep going. Okay, it's 2020, it's 2021, it's 2022, and these things keep popping up, and the NFL's having problems, and I'm just like, how does this keep happening?
Right.
When are these people going to die off,
Right.
so we can all start anew and everything? So, but I'm with you. That shouldn't matter. It shouldn't be on an application. I know they aren't, but they find out, and I guess they're scared of it.
Right. And Coach Hicks still has yet to get a head coaching job. I'm still contacting him, and he actually just got denied of 2 more jobs this week. So like it's highway robbery that Kahari Hicks has not gotten a head coaching job, because yes, he's Muslim, yes, he's a black man, but I'll tell you what, he's one of the best men in my life that I grew up with, and I just got goosebumps just talking about him, because that's how passionate I am about him as a coach. He was my offense coordinator in high school, and the things they do with him and Max Stevens at Cleveland Heights are just unbelievable. And it's highway robbery. It really is that he has not been a head coach.
You've got that right. I got a chance to meet
fired
Max.
Up over here.
Yeah, I know. I got a chance to meet Max Stevens about 2 weeks ago, and man, I mean, if you can't get fired up around that guy, and that guy is straight up and as respected as they come, and this guy's on his staff, you're exactly right. This guy deserves a shot, and obviously we're going to be cheerleaders for all the guys we spoke to today. But these guys that are more than deserving, and they need to be given an opportunity to show what they can do, because they're a big part of the success of these larger coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm hoping to get Max Steven on for our season 2. So I'm hoping to get him on. So we'll see what happens. Getting into episode 3, catching up with Creel, with Coach Damian Creel. What would you say was your favorite part, or you took away?
Something that I related with, and this is something that, as a coach, at whatever level, parents play a part, and so, support system, and whether it be your athletic director or whatever, you really hope that you have a great relationship with these people, and you try so hard at first, and then you get your heart broken, which might take 2 days, might take 2 weeks or 2 months, but eventually you do, and then you harden up. You say, and you have to, you have, everybody has their idea of a culture that they want to put in, and they try to do that, and you're just fighting and you're fighting. And something that came to him, my mind when he was talking is, he eventually had to resign at Beechwood, and he said, which is kind of, you wait so long to get these opportunities.
And it's a shame because it was his alma mater that he
Right,
resigned at.
right. And so just think of the day that he got that job, how excited he was and how hard it had to have been. But so I was waiting for him, just be like, it was the worst day ever and whatever. And something that he caught my eye was, he was like, I was just relieved. I was just relieved that it was over. And we've all been in, personal relationships and stuff. And as I get older, I kind of feel that way too. I feel like, instead of carrying this burden and stuff, it's just relief and it's time to move on. And fair or unfair or whatever, we can argue everything with every player in every situation. But, I've been there, and, I don't think that people that are around the program, that are in the program, realize how much we tell them they don't have an effect on us, but, we still have hearts too. And, that hurts. So, I'm sure he carries, some scar tissue from that time, but it was glad to know that there was relief and he was able to move on. And obviously, has done great things since then.
Right. And at that time, he was ready to walk away from coaching altogether. And he was going to be an assistant coach if it came about, but then luckily he got hired at Lorraine, which they have a winner there now.
Right.
One thing that I really liked is when Creel talked about how gratifying it was to put, like, his players would win all Ohio and to put them up on the wall next to him. He said that was pretty cool. And that's got to be a cool thing. Like, you're up on the wall at Beechwood, and then you coach these players. And I think he had a couple first team all Ohioans that put up right next to him. So he's talked about that. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't, I've seen some school, we've been through a bunch of different schools, and, I don't think they do. That seems to be a thing of the past of having these, plaques and everything. And it's one of the first things I look for when I go through a high school. Yeah. I want to see, who played there before, and I want to see all the plaques of, anything there was or whoever it was. And, that's something neat, that's tying, you want to create your own culture. I get it, but you got to tie it to the past of the program and everything. So that is awesome how he kind of brought that together.
Yeah. And then I had another part for me was how Creel talked about how everything went down at Beechwood with resigning, fired, rehired. And the thing that stuck out to me is that he had to fight for his name in the end. And he said, I think the exact quote was, all you have is your name, something along the lines of that. And how important clearing his name was. It wasn't, I'm just resigning and I'm out of here. He fought for his name, which I thought that was important.
100% agree.
So, we're going to talk now about episode 4, diving in with Dodd, where Shaun Dodd's the head coach over at East Lake North. I really liked how Dodd talked about how important to have everyone support you from administration all the way down. Youth leagues, just the alignment, things like that. I thought that was super cool.
That's one that touched home for me personally, because I went into a situation where it was, we were coming out of COVID, and and I'm at a middle school level, so for this past year, and there was coaches had left right before, and then that COVID hit legitimately before the season. We didn't even know if the season was going to start. We had nothing. We didn't have any scrimmages. We didn't have, one day they just said, hey, we're actually going to go with the season. We didn't know. We weren't even was ready. So but like you said, I think everybody was kind of scattered. So this year, I kind of came in with a, crew of Misfit Toys coaches, and I hired 8 coaches. I said, all right, we're just all going to go in. I know it's ridiculous to have 8 coaches from middle school, but we need to settle the ship,
Right.
and we need 2 coaches at every position and all of that. And as he talked about that, I think about how if we would have had the proper time to get on board with everybody,
Right.
that how smooth, and you're never thinking about the wins. You're thinking about all the losses and all the arguments and all the things. And those are the things that I'm like, man, we could have fixed up so many things if we were on the same page.
Right.
And I think that, especially when you're dealing with a school, at the end of the day, people are getting paid. That's their job. And, whether it be athletic directors or whoever it may be that's involved in there. And, they still need to get paid. They need to take care of their families. And Shaun Dente doesn't mean that much to them. And as opposed to putting food on their table. So, is that argument worth backing Shaun up? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
Right.
I'm coming from a place where all I'm trying to do is develop kids and,
Right.
Try to win games enough to keep people off my back.
Right.
But my job is to get them ready for the next level.
Sure.
And so as he talked about that, I was like, I learned a lot that I'm like, man, I wish I could have handled it that way. Boy, that's very smart, you know.
And that was something that he said in that episode. He said support from the top down, and the quote he used was believing the mission, which I thought that was huge when he said that.
Right. And that's, truly what it is too. We spend so much time watching film, breaking things down, working with kids. It truly kind of is a mission. It's a means to the end, with him, I thought, family just stuck out.
Oh, yeah.
Just stuck out. He said they had 5 coaches' sons that went right through the program. And, I whatever way you want to put it, I've had the luxury to coach my son. I've had the nightmare of coaching my son. I've been yelled at parents during games and, all that, and screamed at in parking lots and stuff. But I also have moments with my son that, other people didn't have an opportunity to. And my son's a quarterback too. So, there was days that I wished he was a nose tackle and nobody would have cared. But, for some reason, a quarterback holds a little more.
And they're done that.
Yeah. So, so you get that. But, and then, and just about how much time you stay away from your family and you're taken away. And what really got me a little choked up listening to him was when he had talked about his daughter was on the sideline. Everybody's on the sidelines for years. And then his daughter's like, I'm not going to sit with my friends. Right. And my daughter's 12 and she's starting to hit that age to where she doesn't need to be around dad as much, sure. And so that's something where, because it takes so much time, then you feel like you're, as a dad, father, coach, you're making choices and you're trying to not make anybody mad, but, so, my heart goes out to him. That sounds like great. And it sounds like, even with the success that he had, they were able to manage having your, dads and coaches. We had a simple rule: can't coach your kids position, and all the coaches went, hey, no problem. That's how I knew I had good coaches.
Absolutely. You mentioned that about Shaun Dente's daughter. She actually just scored the winning run in her first college game.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I just saw it on Facebook the other day. So congratulations!
Oh, fantastic!
To them. Getting into the Buzz Edwards interview, episode 5, the Buzz of the Town. Coach Edwards is actually, now I look back on it, he was the only coach that coaches linemen in season 1. So
really?
He's the only lineman coach that I've had on the show. So I really liked how he talked about the difference in the details from coaching O-line in Ohio to coaching O-line in Virginia. He talked about the little details that they didn't necessarily do in Virginia that they do here in Ohio.
Yeah,
so I thought that was kind of cool.
That's amazing too, and we're so close. We're not talking West Coast to East Coast, right. Or where the weather may play a fact, and we got to do this differently. It's a couple hours away, and it just little things, and that's where I think people get their advantages, right. And that's the stuff that guys like you and I need to, and anybody listening, is those are the things to steal right from people. Yeah. That's years of experience that he learned that on a podcast we can go, boy, I can steal that and use that this week.
But yeah, what do you think was your takeaway from episode 5?
He there was definitely a commitment aspect. He talked about how lucky he was. They had so many players come through and actually become college athletes. We know how some of it, there's so many people that start off even as college, but how many actually get to their junior year? Right, I mean, everybody signs letters, gets the hat, and gets excited, takes a picture, but do they actually make it? Do they make it? Do they actually get in a game? And he's had not only had college players that have success in a lot of them, an abnormal amount in comparison to just a normal high school or whatnot. So, but what he said was, they started identifying kids in 7th and 8th grade. Right. And this is, and I thought that was, and he said, we get them to buy in at that age. And it's a funny thing because, like I said, I spent this last year in middle school, and who gets the attention? The kids that are 6'2", right. 6'3", 240, huge guys. Well, yeah, you're right. And those guys should. I mean, they're once again, they're ahead of the curve. They could at the end of the day, we want to win varsity games on Friday nights.
Right.
And those guys have a quicker path than the 5'5", 86-pound guy. But, the fact that he grabs in and says, okay, yeah, we're going to identify guys, but we're making sure everybody gets committed in early and they all feel a part of it and moving forward.
Right.
And so, every middle school team in America is going to have their 3 guys that they rely on. But I like that they did that. And that can't, it's going to lead to his success going forward, because guess what? The 5'5" guy is not going to be 5'5" forever.
Right, exactly.
I had an April birthday. I was the youngest in there. So it wasn't until my sophomore year that I grew, but you grew 5 inches in a summer, and all of a sudden you're on track with everybody. So it sounds like he has a plan, not just for, and I'm sure during the season he is focused on Friday nights, but right now in the middle of February, spending time, whether it be in the, the weight room or whatnot, or talking or creating leadership groups, it sounds like he knows exactly what he needs to do and who he needs to go after, because you lose those players going in, and who do you lose? You lose the little guys.
And that's the thing, is the biggest year is that 8th grade to freshman year,
right?
And the freshman year to sophomore year is keeping kids out. And Buzz does a great job, because he's in the school teaching, he's with those kids year round, and getting those kids in the weight room, up their butts to be there.
Yeah.
And he does a very good job of that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So episode 6, Triv's on our show. And it's kind of funny when I talk about the title of that, because me and my sister kind of were talking, and we're just like, why don't we just call it Triv's on our show? Because if you say it's fast, it sounds like Trevisano show.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the backstory of that title, Triv's on our show. But we had on Hall of Fame coach Steve Trevisano, former Mentor high school football coach. What was your take from Steve Trevisano?
Well, first of all, I'm excited that I'm sitting in the same chair as he was.
Yeah.
You had some great coaches, but that week just went through the roof. I'd love to talk to any NFL player, but when you talk to a Hall of Fame guy, it's just another level.
Sure.
So that's a guy that I went back and listened to again, because I said there's got to be stuff, more stuff that I can get out of this. And at the end of the day, it was his patience, and he's just a cool cat. He just sat here like nothing's going on. Like, let me just tell you the whole story, like a grandpa. Like, let me tell you about my football days. And it was amazing because, to think that he didn't get the mentor job the first time, knowing what we know now, it's just amazing. Not that there weren't great candidates, but to go, gosh, he accomplished all this stuff. Kind of like the Browns. How did the Browns not keep Bill Belichick? Type of a thing.
Right.
He didn't get it, and he had the patience, and he waited, and then he got the interim job. And it's an interim job because it's an interim job, and they're looking for somebody else, but they need you to get through this thing. And so for him, and that can't be a comfortable feeling.
Right.
And when you're called interim, are the parents in? Are the kids actually even in? I wouldn't feel comfortable, if I was on his staff, like, are we going to be here next year, or should I start looking, so for him to, have the patience, and you can tell, like I said, he's cool, calm, and collective, and he's just, a chill guy. And you can tell that probably helped him get through that process and just focus on what he needs to do. But, for all of his great success, the patience that he had to do that, because I think we want, especially younger guys, you just want it so as fast as you can, as quick as you can, because you just want the opportunity. And the fact that he was able to do, and he said, probably made him a better coach in the long run.
Right. And you talk about patience. If I were to do it all over again, and all over again, I mean, I wouldn't have interviewed for head coaches so soon. Maybe I would have, just for the opportunity. If I could do it all over again, I would have stayed at Kinston. And it's in the back of your mind, but
sure,
it is what it is. But I would have had the patience. I should have stayed at Kinston and kind of just, rolled with it. And I mean, they have had success every year since I've left too. So like, it's just one of those things where you jumped into it, as you said, a young coach, you want to go, but it's what it is.
You don't know till you know. You don't know till you know, and you got to get your hands dirty. And nothing's going to fast forward your your education level, like getting in there and doing it, and everything. So, it is, boy, hindsight's 2020.
Right. And that's the quote I was looking for when I was saying. Another thing that I really liked about the Trevisano episode was the importance of building the youth program, and he did it the right way, and he pissed a lot of people off for doing it, but he did it the right way. And now look at Mentor High School. He said a lot of their success came from building the youth program and the middle school program. So that was a big take, and I thought that was huge.
It makes me sad because I'm going to say something that I'd love to see the comments and on this, but I do not think that youth leagues. Well, let's compare it to, and I need a couple minutes on this one because this is where it hits home for me. Let's look at youth baseball as what football is going to be. Rec league when I grew up. Now, granted, like I said, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I'm 43. So rec league was just everybody that lived in the city.
Right.
And I remember hearing about the Manchester A's, which are still around, legendary thing. And that was for, kids that lived in other cities that threw 90 miles an hour and, you heard of. And that was the same way with AAU basketball. That was for the, Kobe Bryants of the world, not me, elite. Yeah. There was I didn't know where to go play AAU basketball. And now the rec league, and God love it. My son played in a rec league last year, are for kids that don't want to quit the sport, but don't want to be in the cage for 11 of the 12 months.
Right.
And it's so diluted. And the travel teams were such a big deal. Now it's, hey, if you can put 10 kids together and we all split the money and we all buy jerseys, we're a travel team and we play in these tournaments. And there are some, I've been fortunate to coach some my kids on my team play on these really high level travel teams. And that's fantastic for them, but it's diluting everything. And now we're starting to see, and my son was a part of travel football, and it was a great experience and he learned so much. But with OHSAA rules, once he went into middle school, he was not allowed to do the travel. He wasn't allowed to do 7-on-7. He wasn't allowed to do this. If I had to do it all over again, I would not have let him go to middle school because we could have played 10 times the amount of football. Right. Now, I know everybody wants multi-sport athletes, and that makes a ton of sense to me. But my son's a kid that is, an okay basketball player, an okay baseball player, and he's kind of a nerd, just really loves football. And I guess out of quarterback's a little different. Maybe if he was D-end, wouldn't want to work on as much, but he's always looking for, and we've missed so many opportunities because he wasn't allowed. Right. And I just think as a quarterback, you should be in the school learning their process. Right. There's not going to be middle school football as we know it or has come to know it for going forward. It's just not going to happen because now these travel teams and they're great. There's one local to us that have the coolest jerseys, and they practice on a state championship practice field that's turf. I mean, how awesome would that be? And they've got great coaches and a great support system and the funding to do it and all this stuff. And there's, I know another guy that my son played for, he kind of does it with a shoestring budget, puts everything together and says, hey, we're going to do it. And it's neat and it works both ways, but it's taking away and it's diluting and it's going to ruin middle school sports. Sure. And that's what's happening. And now they're getting them in the youth leagues. I mean, there are 6U football teams. Yeah. I mean, 6U. I mean, I couldn't imagine a 6-year-old with helmets, and I watch them and they are adorable. I'm not going to lie to you, but I mean, I couldn't imagine being 6 years old, just fighting my pads and everything. I had a dad call me for some advice. And I said, well, are you yelling at him, telling him to get going, got to be tough. And he said, yeah, because that's what we're all trained to do, be tough. And I said, the kid's 6, dude. Right. He doesn't even know what day of the week it is.
That's crazy because I didn't even start playing football till 6th grade. So now that these kids have all these tools to be, play football from 6th grade on, and then it's winter, summer, they have all these opportunities. So I wish I grew up at a time sometimes now, but I also like the aspect of middle school football. It's just changed so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see that's, one last point is that's what's going to happen to the youth leagues. They're going to get faded out because all the players are going to be taken. The only good thing that I see though, is even like in rec baseball for my son, like I said, I'm going to speak from, experience, is my son like being a catcher, and he's a very good catcher, but he's not elite. He's still got to live that sport for another couple of years. So I guess at worst, there's more running backs and more quarterbacks because there's more receivers and more middle linebackers and DN, all the quote unquote cool positions or whatever. I guess if it's spaced out, that's great. Because at the end of the day, they need to funnel into some high school somewhere.
Right.
But, I do think in one way it's extremely smart for these high schools to have, relations with these things. But in another way, when you're in a small school, you're going to be ripped of all of your players, and it's just going to continue being what it's always been.
Right. For episode 7, we headed over to California. We sat down with one of the most motivational and influential coaches, in the country, Coach Kurt Hines. My absolute favorite part from that episode was how he kind of got started in coaching. He was in college and he coached a Special Olympics flag football team. And he said the joy on those kids' faces is what made him want to coach. I thought that was super cool. That one thing is what got him started coaching.
So first of all, that guy, he looked, if you saw him at the grocery store, you would know he's a football coach. There's no doubt about it. How I found out about Coach Hines through Twitter, and there was if anybody knows Coach Hines, there's this little video of him, and he talks about being backed in a corner and he's slamming their lockers, and I'm getting fired up and I want to run through a wall and get all, and I kind of followed him. I'm like, I'm going to see all these sweet, tough guy videos that are going to get me pumped up. And every day it's a different message. And every day it's a message. And this guy's so soft-spoken and, talks about how family is so important. With him, I thought faith, and it was a double meaning for him because, his faith is so huge in his life and, kind of guides whatever he does. And that's there. But he also took faith when he was talking about moving coast to coast and just decides, hey, tells his wife, says, I want to take this job, and, didn't have too many connections. And they just went out and said, we'll figure out if we sell our house or not. And, he said, we weren't, rich people at that point or anything. And it made me think of all the little things coaches throughout the United States do. And we just take jobs on a whim, and we have this weird faith in ourselves and our coaching staff and the people around us that we'll just make it happen. I don't know how it's going to happen. We're just going to make it happen. And it does. And so many times it does work. And, so faith and like I said, for both, spiritual faith, but just the faith that he took in there really, is very inspiring. And he's a guy, if you get a chance, if you have Twitter, that's a great follow to, every day see what message he has, and, really inspiring and motivational. And I think we need that stuff from time to time.
No, absolutely. Coach Hines is definitely a coach that I would love to play for.
Oh my goodness.
He does it for all the right reasons. When I talk to him, and we talked for a little before and after the live video, but man, he's just a genuine person and just someone I would love to play for. I wish he would have been, because one of my coaches.
Well, you hit on that, and you go, hey, you guys are out there in California, but you're practicing. He's like, just left the field, So
right. How nice would that be? Right now, I go out on a turf field and throw just because it's sunny.
Unbelievable.
72 and sunny there,
Yeah.
Getting into my favorite episode, and I'm a little biased because it's the episode with me and my head coach. But flipping the script, I got to sit down with my former high school head football coach, George Bjorn. This one was special to me because there's a lot of stuff that I needed to get off my chest, and I needed to tell my side of the story, which hasn't been told yet. So that was one of the coolest things about that episode. And there's a bunch of questions that I wanted to ask my head coach, that I never got to when I played for him. But Coach, what would you say was your take on episode 8?
So I'll do Coach Bjork first. You can tell the pride that he has. And I think you could see he has a lot of pride in you. And like I said, I know we're friends. I know we're sitting here talking, but, you could tell that, no wonder, he comes on here and you have that rapport and you can just feel it watching an episode. Right. And he has pride in you, but he has pride in the stuff that he's done. I talk about a lot of times all the little things that you can do that doesn't cost money. And, and he talked about, your unis, you guys switched it up, and you got to have money to have them, but anymore, everybody does. And, switched them up. You said, I don't think we ever wore the same combination twice.
I don't think so. Yeah.
He took you guys on trips. He was worried about going to all these crazy camps, and he wanted a football experience, not just we're out there to do that. And then, and that's what that's the school that I'm from. Is the first thing I do is break out the new unis, and we make a big deal out of it and all this stuff, and it gets kids, it really does. It really does. And and I always joke, the dads will come up and go, I don't know about these jerseys. I said, listen, if I'm 43 and I like what the jerseys look like, they're probably not cool, So, but he really hit that with me, and you can just tell, he's so, thoughtful of the time that he spent with you, and just having that opportunity, and great time to be a football coach. I mean, had great success.
Right, absolutely, and I have two things that stand out to me even after listening. I mentioned one already, but after listening to it, I watched it multiple times. Now, once again, I got to finally tell my side of the story and bring details to light that haven't been told up until that point, which is unfortunate.
Sure.
I had to get that kind of off my chest. And then Coach Bjork's side of things, I really liked how he talked about the importance of alignment again, of principal to athletic director to superintendent to head coach to guidance counselor. He talked about alignment in that episode,
Right.
which I think is so important.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily have the alignment when I went to Cardinal.
Sure.
It just didn't line up. We had a new principal hired, principal then went to superintendent. I didn't have that alignment, and I think that's unfortunate that things kind of went down the way they did. But he talked about that alignment a lot, and I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, if you pick up a paper in the Cardinal community, I mean, they're going to have an opportunity with 3 big roles, resigning. They got an opportunity to, correct that for the future of those kids. I've been privy to be around you since my son was about 9 years old. For those listening, I had
I think it was 5 or 6 when we first.
It might have been. It might have. Those Facebook memories keep coming back earlier and earlier. And the way I had met George was George had a football camp. We had a baseball tournament. We couldn't make it. And my son decided, I want to be this quarterback and whatever. So I called him. I said, hey, George, I don't know you, but can I pay you $50? And for 2 hours, you teach my son quarterback. And I'll share this with you because I thought about it driving in today. He's had a million coaches since then. You've always been the first one. But I remember that day that we dropped him off, and I wanted to leave because I wanted him to have time with you and learn what a coach is. And I was like, well, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back through the back door and see if this guy's dicking around or kind of just playing catch with my son. And I go through those back doors, through the cafeteria of Kenston. Yeah. And I look through the thing, and I call my wife, and I'm like, this guy's on one knee working with him already an hour, 45 minutes into this, and, my son's had success all along, and it's always stemmed from that relationship they have from you. I know he calls you every once in a while and checks in, and, so I've gotten to see George Gresko from there on. I got to watch you through the process, watch you, the success at Kenston, and move to, and how many Final 4s, Final 2s that you were in for jobs. And I was so happy for you at Cardinal. And, what I'm so proud of you and is this wasn't an ideal situation. And, even when you first told me, I'm like, it almost seems like a dream. You're just like, this is gonna work out. And I just kept saying to you, don't worry about it. It's not going to get worse. This is very simple. You didn't do it. Everything's great. And it just wouldn't go away. And, it's scary because you think about, government and schools and whatever, and they have so much to protect. And this is, a little bit of what I learned working in schools is, and I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but they're not going to protect you. They've got so much to do. And if that was just the way to get it over with, that's the way to get it over with. And it's unfortunate, but, I'm proud of how you have, stood tall through it all. You see the stuff on Facebook and stuff, and it makes you crazy, but you can't fight it, and it's over with. And I'm really glad that you had that, that washing of everything off to be able to say, listen, you don't know the whole situation. This is it. If you care about me and you listen, obviously if you're listening to this podcast, you know who I am,
sure.
And go from there. So I've always been a huge believer in you. You've been great to my kids and the kids of every, school that you've coached, but it was great to see your growth as a person when you faced adversity, just like you did in football. You just somehow came out on top, and you're just, some school is going to take the chance and they're going to reap all the benefits. And that's to be said for most of these coaches. I kind of sat through this going, boy, if we could take all the coaches that got hosed over and put them on one staff, that'd be an amazing staff, and that shows you, boy, it's certainly happening over and over and over, isn't it?
Right.
It's sad.
Yep, and you see it. There's more like situations going on now than there ever has been, and it's part of it is people are afraid to make decisions. Like they are just afraid to do this or this, or because this and this is going to happen. But going back to what Creel said, part of the reason what happened, we were fighting for our name. I could have sat back in the back seat, resigned, and it would have been all over with.
Sure.
But it wasn't about that for me. It wasn't about resign and walk away. It was me fighting for my name because I knew no matter what happened, it's me in the back. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so heading into our season 1 finale with Coach Chuck Kyle, which
wow,
I mean, yeah, when
I couldn't believe that you got,
and it's cool because I emailed him and I got an email back within maybe 10 minutes. Like I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'll hear from him, maybe I won't, but he emailed me back pretty quickly, which to have a guy like that on the show was unbelievable.
I think it speaks volumes. I think it's one of those things where, okay, maybe we're wrong, right? Maybe he just happened to log on and that thing popped up.
Right.
But maybe returning emails to people he doesn't know has led to 50 years of success.
Right.
Yep. I'm more apt to say it's probably that way, but like I said, could have been lucky, hit his phone or something, but that's a guy that doesn't have to return an email.
Right. Yep.
And it's ironic that guy does, that's amazing.
So what was something that you kind of took away from the season finale with Coach Chuck Kyle? I mean, he's one of the best to ever do it. I mean, there's no argument there.
We could talk all day on his X's and O's and his offense and defense and being at a Catholic school and all this stuff. What I really thought about was, 50 years is a long time. And,
51 years.
I mean, 51, yeah.
And 40 as the head coach.
Just unbelievable.
49 years as the head track coach also. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, to think to be 10 years at one place would just be amazing. 20, you probably get a statue. I mean,
let's just tell you this, 100 total years combined between football and track.
Just unbelievable.
As a head coach. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, there can't be many people on that list, So what I was trying to pick up from that was obviously secret to success, but not all of that, but what was, and he threw out, it was kind of a throwaway line that I know I'm looking into it more, but when a guy like that talks, you listen to every word he says, and he said, he was talking about the weight room and he just said, we get in the weight room and he's like, it's not just about lifting weights. Like, you gotta have a plan and kind of go through. And he just said, you got to show them how to do it.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, I know I'm probably looking more into this, but boy, isn't that the success of a program? Let me show, how many coaches say, come on, you can do it. I always see, and I see this at the youth level and middle school and probably even high school, but, when a coach doesn't know what to do and how to tell you, like if you, your shortstop and the ball goes through your legs, if they just go, oh, you can do it next time, don't worry, and just try to give you either positive or negative remarks, they probably don't know the reason you missed that. Did you not get your knees down? Or not you glove down? I'm not a baseball guy, but there's all those little things that you got to tell them why. Tell them how to do it.
It's not the 70s or 80s anymore where it says, "Oh, throw the weight on the bar and just do it."
Right.
It's not that anymore. There's liabilities. There's this, and this, and you can't do that anymore. You have to be able to show these kids correct techniques and things of that nature. And it's a different world from the 80s till now because you better be educated about coaching and you better be educated about the weight room.
Well, efficiency. I mean, I hated the weight room. So if I could go in like I
was a quarterback. I hated the weight room. Yeah,
exactly. So I played receiver. So yeah, kind of the same thing. But so I wanted in and out. But if I knew that I had to go bust ass for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I got to sit through 3 Metallica songs. I can do that. Right. I can do that. But it was the grind and the fear of, oh my God, the linemen are there for 3 hours. I don't have the cool rip shirt. I don't look good, but circle back, it was just him saying, this is how we do it. So man, if at, 7th grade, Shaun somebody sat down and said, listen, man, this is all you got to do.
Right.
You're not going to be a middle linebacker any day soon. So this is what we need you to do. We really need you to work on your speed, do these. And if you do these, these type of exercises, that'll help you do your speed, and then follow up and just little simple plans. And you imagine, obviously, and another thing that I see, as an error across the thing is, I see so many coaches with nothing in their hands, not a piece of paper around him. And I'm like, that's a guy that probably can do it from memory.
Right.
He's probably robotic and knows exactly what to do. But you see, he's got everything. He's prepared at all times. And,
Right.
You see him on the sidelines. It's amazing. But yeah, how simple just to say, hey, let's maximize what we're doing. Let's show them how to do it. And that's amazing that, he's been able to last that long. So, he's got the secret code somehow.
And another thing that he kind of mentioned too, that I'll go off your answer, was he talked about coaching the youth league, because he's now I forget the exact word for it, but something
the
with
Browns.
So
Yeah.
it's like youth director or something close to that.
Yeah.
And he talked about it's not two kids running into each other for 40 minutes
Sure.
anymore. He's like, you better be educated about how to run a practice. You don't need to hit for 3 straight hours. It's not like that anymore. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Another part that I really liked with Coach Kyle was that he has coached as a head coach in 5 different decades. 5 different decades. I'm like, that's crazy to me. That's absolutely crazy. And he said the biggest difference from when he got hired, I believe in '83, he got hired as the head coach, somewhere close to that. And he said the difference is speed is more essential now than it was way back then. He goes, now these kids are bigger, faster, stronger than what they were back then. Which I'm like, the saying goes, speed kills in today's football.
Well, hey, man, look at the equipment. Look at Chris Spielman's shoulder pads and neck roll and all of that.
The good old neck roll.
Yeah. Where the days of the neck roll, as sweet as they look, they're gone. And now, linebackers, you got JOK from the Browns. I mean, he looks like he's on special teams or a cornerback, and he's a linebacker. Yeah. And they're just trying to, so it is, you're right. Speed is a huge thing. And I think obviously speed can be overvalued too. They give a lot of credit to fast guys, but boy, you can make up for a mistake very quickly, if you've got that speed. So, but yeah, what a get for the season finale with Coach Kyle, and especially as he's kind of going into the sunset and going to spend time with his family, to get some gems from him, because, that's a guy that we all can look up to.
Season 1, I mean, between Trevisano and Chuck Kyle, I mean, those are 2 big gets. And I'm going to mention this right now, and it might sound a little arrogant, but with the situation that happened with me at Cardinal,
right.
How would I be able to get these guys if I wasn't somewhat respected in the coaching world? So I think that's something that I needed to say. And
yeah.
Like, if I was such a bad guy, I wouldn't have these great guys coming on the show,
Well, I just think of what coaches are. Coaches are leader of men. They're pretty much bullshit detectors. They're professionals at that,
absolutely.
And they can see through these people quickly. They can see, I've every head coach that I've been around, especially I'm in the Akron area, they're all the greatest guys to be around. They're endearing people, and everything, but they've got that personality trait, and they have to be able to make personnel decisions quick, and coaching, staffing. And so, like I said, they're professionals at determining if these are people. And I think that, definitely is exactly what you're saying. Coach Kyle is not going to put his name or anybody's name with somebody that they think isn't, on the up and up, and, be included, and especially once again, like we said, how quickly something can be on Google and is taken for truth. And, but what a fantastic season. And, I'm excited for, not only to be a part of the season, see who's coming up, like you had mentioned, tease probably Max Stevens and some others. And, you don't want to go throwing them out there in there,
I'm not giving any,
right.
But I just wish Coach Kyle the best of luck in his final season, 40th season as the head football coach. So I'll be rooting for him, and then best of luck to him in his retirement.
Is he going to be the first coach that people that don't go to that school go to a game just to see a coach coach.
Right, and that's I'm if I'm not coaching or whatever,
Yeah.
if things work out at Cleveland Heights or wherever, if not, I'll be watching Coach Kyle closely. I'll go to a few
100%.
games. And who knows, if I'm coaching at Cleveland Heights, we could end up seeing them in the playoffs and
Yeah.
that type of thing. To wrap things up, Coach, you'll be the next coach to sign my coach's wall right behind you. So go ahead and sign that bad boy. As coaches signing the wall, I just want to thank everyone who supported the Coach's Approach podcast for season 1. It's been a great season, as Coach Dent has mentioned. We will be back for season 2 in a few weeks. Keep in touch through social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Listen to our show on both Anchor and Spotify. Coach Dent, once again, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
It.
I appreciate it. And, once again, thanks for a forum like this because, like I said, coming from the Akron area, I don't have access. I wouldn't have known some of these coaches until I really discovered those. So, there are people that I want to look forward to, watching their games, their high school games on Friday nights. My son and I like making trips to different schools and, go shake their hands afterwards and let them know where I, met them and the stuff that I've learned from them. So, right there's a bunch of guys that, I would read books from, that I got to learn because of this podcast. So thank them for their time to come out and spend time with you and, help. Like I said, we're all stealing from somebody. So, a great group to steal from right there.
And that's kind of why I started the podcast in the first place. I wanted to hear other coaches' stories, how they got to where they're at, how they battle adversity like I have. I wanted to hear how they did things. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Fantastic.
So, we'll be looking out for season 2. It's going to be out here in a few weeks once I finally get the full roster set. And we'll see you guys later.
Welcome to the Coach's Approach, a podcast where we sit down with high school coaches and get the cold, hard facts about the high school coaching world. This is the Coach's Approach, where we talk X's and O's. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is the Coach's Approach, where we talk the X's and O's. Win the day or dominate the day. The choice is yours.